Hello and thanks for watching another episode of ARFCOM News, your source for the finest 2A propaganda brought to you by TNVC.com. Today I want to tell you what's really in Stranger Danger's new spooky boy ruling from the ATF, but first you have got to see some of the best moments from his press conference.
The AFT.
You may have heard, on account of it being the only thing we're talking about this week, but President Poopy Pants announced some new gun laws on Monday. In other news, both houses of Congress have vacated their chambers on permanent recess as they are no longer needed, and criminals lined up around the block to turn in their stolen high points with filed-off serial numbers. It is indeed painful to watch the doddering old fool stumble through his press conferences, so no one could blame you for not watching this one. That's why, as a public service and out of the kindness of my heart, Paul kept me up all night long with mild electric shocks, force-feeding me Peeps and Jolt Cola to analyze the video and report back to you kind folks. At this point, it almost feels like elder abuse, but this dude is president, and if I'm not reporting on what he says, then I'm not doing my job for you gentle folk.
Hey friend, it's dark half the time on this planet, so unless you got shiny eyes like Riddick, you're gonna have a hard time operating operationally unless you get night vision from TNVC.com.
Now, if you're not interested in the comedic gold the bad touch laid down in his press conference, go ahead and skip to about here, and we'll dive into what's actually in the royal decree and what the final rule will mean for us, but I think you'll want to stick around.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
After taking a few moments to grope a young woman, he decided she was too old for his taste, and Sleepy Joe mounted the podium. The befuddled old man babbled incoherently about spooky boys.
The idea that someone on a terrorist list could purchase one of these guns is extreme. It isn't extreme.
Then he shuffled away from the microphone to mumble some more.
This is the gun.
You steal a third of my income and you can't mic this guy up?
That dealer must make the firearm.
What?
In February, the Department of Justice launched the nation.
You can do it, Joe!
In February, the Department of Justice launched a national ghost gun enforcement initiative. You commit a crime with a ghost gun, expect federal prosecution. Not just state.
Stay on target.
Expect federal prosecution. In addition to today.
Stay on target.
In addition to today's rule, we're working on 4 areas. First, we're going after rogue gun dealers. The last time we had data on this was more than 20 years ago. 6B, who are the people who are the pastors of the churches.
I feel like I'm watching an episode of bad lip reading.
I learned how to cast the spell Ogre Smoke. Ogre Smoke's one of the hardest spells you can even do. I know.
And I said, what do you think the deer you're hunting are wear Kevlar vests?
Oh! Oh, beautiful!
About this time, Joey could tell he was losing his audience, so he put on his best squinty-eyed tough guy face and began alternating between whispering and yelling.
It's a weapon of war. There's nothing to do with recreation.
So we would know he wouldn't be taking any guff, balderdash, claptrap, hokum, or even malarkey from the gun lobby. Who is the gun lobby? I'm glad you asked. It's you and me. That's right, Poopy Pants won't put up with any of our hippie shit. Don't you forget it.
Imagine had the tobacco industry been immune to being sued. And certain people from the very beginning weren't allowed to purchase guns.
Certain people? Damn, Joe. Yeah, those certain people weren't allowed to vote either. Trying to bring back antiquated racist colonial practices is not a great look, my dude. And now that we mention it, doubling down on failed policies of a bygone era might not be the most astute political move, even without the racist undertones, after 2 years of business-crushing plans and defunding law enforcement produced a tidal wave of criming. An overwhelming number of people are beginning to understand the government can't keep them safe. Do you really want to make this your campaign issue?
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
But if Uncle Naughty Hands insists on throwing himself on that sword, I won't be the one to stop him. Besides, he hasn't had his nap and he's still a little upset he's not allowed to purchase human beings anymore. You know, like when he was a young man. Oh, yeah, and he said AFT like 3 times.
AFT, the AFT. To lead and support the dedicated men and women of the AFT, I'm proud to nominate Steve Diddlewood.
Asphincter says what? What?
I'm proud to nominate Steve Diddleback. Excuse me, I mispronounced your name. As Director of Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Steve is immensely qualified.
Little ginger homie here throwing up gang signs on the side is straight done.
Including AFT agents. And one of those was his case he was personally tried as a U.S. attorney.
But the leader of the free world persistently plodded along and eventually introduced his nomination to head the ATF and his nose.
To lead the AFT to you. I'll just take this off. Thank you, buddy. I'm just going to stand over here.
I also want to thank my incredible, supportive, and often patient family who are here. My wonderful wife, Carol, and my children, Allie and David, please.
He's 16 years old. I want to draft him.
Is there an agent in the house?
Awkward. Anyway, Beetlejuice began by bragging about some of his accomplishments as U.S. Attorney.
When I was U.S. Attorney, our office partnered with the ATF and the Cleveland Police as they doggedly investigated and brought a case involving the deadliest home arson in Cleveland history. Killed 9 people, including 8 kids.
Should I take that as a threat? But Beetlejuice did admit they don't write the laws.
They don't write the laws.
Okay, so let's move on to what's actually in the new laws they wrote. As always, we will be linking our sources down in the doobly-doo, but here are a few of the takeaways from the rule published by the ATF,
AFT.
as best as I understand as a layperson. Remember, I'm not a lawyer because my soul belongs to Jesus. But it looks to my inexpert eye as though most homemade and 3D printed guns will be unaffected. Even 80% receivers on their own should be unaffected. And if they ever do plan to go after plain 80% receivers, the AFT might want to consider taking this page down. Right now, it appears they are only targeting complete buy, build, shoot types of kits as being readily convertible and therefore firearms of themselves. To be honest, that's probably a defensible legal position. Manufacturers will likely continue to sell 80% receivers, jigs, and tools. They'll just have to sell them separately or engrave them with the serial number and transfer through an FFL for some reason. They also say they will require licensed dealers to engrave a serial number before selling any completed gun. But there are lots of problems with this. It doesn't seem you'll need to engrave your own homemade gun unless you plan to sell it, but it was already illegal to make guns at home for the purpose of selling them. And I didn't see anything addressing antiques that weren't required to have serial numbers because they were made before the '68 Gun Control Act. And even if they required everybody now in possession of a spooky boy to engrave their gun, serial numbers can really be any combination of letters and numbers. So my serial number could be 0000000 or 69420 or just the number 1. How many guns and Form 1 silencers are already floating around out there with the serial number 80,085? Serial numbers are only unique within a specific manufacturer's specific product line of model such and such. So how does it help to trace so-called ghost guns by requiring arbitrary made-up numbers which are bound to be duplicated? The new royal decrees also attempt to address split receivers. Kind of. They don't really make a change, but they acknowledge that many guns don't actually have any part which meets the 68 GCA, citing the 1911, FAL, and AR-15s as examples of guns that existed in 1968, where no single part actually meets the definition by statute. But they don't seem interested in requiring serial numbers on all parts, and they are standing by previous opinions on what constitutes a receiver or a frame. So, for right now, AR lowers are still the receiver, and uppers are not required to have a serial number, so go ahead and move the selector lever on your panic buying back to the semi position and calm the hell down.
And what's Fonzie like? Come on, Yolanda, what's Fonzie like?
Cool.
What?
Cool.
Correctamundo.
Do you like pews and pew-related things? Do you want to help us keep delivering you pure, uncut American pew propaganda at the low, low price of $3.99? We literally couldn't make this show if it weren't for the generous support of TNVC.com, purveyors of the finest non-GMO night vision devices handcrafted from fine Corinthian leather in the old world style. They also have mounts, lights, training swag, and all sorts of other probably responsibly sourced gear to make you the bump in the night. And remember, if you aren't subscribed to our channel, you make puppies cry and Captain America is disappointed. I love you.
I'll just take this off. Thank you, buddy. I'm just going to stand over here.